your planning board. For turning out, hoping we have a lot of people visiting us as well by the Zoom. Polly, thank you for doing this. Really appreciate it. It's my pleasure to introduce to you three very bright individuals who we are blessed to have help the town. And I get to even have a mic.
We need a mic.
So Edmund, Jacob, and Zhao, is that right?
Yeah.
Zhao. They're students at MIT. We're here primarily for a listening service. I'm not going to get into lengthy introductions. They'll tell you what they're doing. We'll pass the mic around to have a conversation, ask questions. I'll let them sort of play with the field, introduce yourself, where you live, and we'll have a conversation about solar and BESS in the town of Plainfield. Thank you.
Thank you for that introduction. We can briefly go across here and say our names really quickly, and then I can kind of explain the purpose of the renewable energy clinic that we are a part of. So first I can start off. My name is Jacob. I am a student at MIT working on a Master of City Planning, focusing on environmental concerns and community engagement, especially within environmental justice concerns. I'm also from a small town in Illinois originally, so I've kind of used town. It was faced with also solar concerns that we all kind of heard from, and I kind of saw how it honestly kind of broke apart my community. So I really want to help and assist in ways that I was able to at that time and help here in Plainfield.
Hi everyone, I'm Jiao. I'm also in the same major with Jacob. We're in the urban planning, city planning, and I had a little bit about like diverse background in energy system, in data analytics, but also architecture design. I grew up in a small town in northwestern China. So it's like far into the inland. We have a lot of grasslands. We have a lot of horses. A little bit same like here. Yeah, I'm just here. I really like the opportunity, appreciate the opportunity to come here and to just hear your concerns and to kind of imagine together what could the future pathway be.
My name is Edmund Lloyd. I'm a research fellow at MIT. I'm also originally from Liberia, West Africa, and I'm an urban planner. So back home myself as the director for zoning and land use planning at the Ministry of Public Works in Liberia, and also consult for the World Bank on many projects in sub-Saharan Africa. So I'm happy to be here to hear from you today. Thank you.
And the reason that we're here is through the MIT Renewable Energy Facility Site and Clinic. We put a little bit in the newsletter that we sent out on what the clinic is, but we wanted to kind of really elaborate on that to ensure that everyone knows why we're here. We are here for the community at the end of the day. Really, it's essentially clarifying community concerns about current and future proposals. And the clinic has done this with multiple other cities in the state of Massachusetts in the past. They have worked with Salem, Barnstable, Wendell, and some other cities as well in the area. And we really are wanting to kind of figure out what community concerns are regarding renewable energy siting within the town. Through these concerns, we can really kind of clarify and sharpen what is really kind of the hesitancies about renewable energy and how we can move forward through this. And we also want to help, especially in this situation with the planning board and the bylaws, to ensure that these concerns are written out and reflected within the town law. As well, we want to really emphasize the benefits that could be from these projects as well. So if there's anything of those concerns that we can kind of flip around and figure out what can you guys ask for from developers to ensure that things can go better than before. That is something else that we are here for. And like I said, I've seen how kind of solar issues can really tear apart communities, and they didn't really get anything out of solar coming into my hometown because it was just so at each other's throats instead of actually thinking about, okay, this does kind of have a negative, if there was a net negative, but how can we turn this into a net positive? So it may not seem like it, but we really want to try to emphasize how we can flip that narrative around. And really just from hearing from you guys as neighbors that live here.
Only better
Um,
nuclear power.
so, before we get started, I think I did a good job explaining what that was. If there's any more questions throughout, if you want to know more about what the clinic does, that's great. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yes.
Will a culmination of your work be put forth in a paper so that it'll be available to government, et cetera, the public in general?
Yeah. So, thank you. Yeah, the work that we're doing will be in tandem with the planning board for the town's bylaw, which will include a community benefits agreement. We weren't planning on publishing this information for wider use, mainly just for the community in general. Yes, thank you.
I'm just gonna propose that questions, if you can, could come up here, because we only have one microphone, and if we don't use the microphone, I don't think it gets recorded. And so that's one suggestion. I'm also happy to walk it to you, but then for the answer, I'm gonna have to walk it back too. So, you know, if we could just all work together on this, it would help the meeting flow from just passing one to another.
Just want to add another information is that we have here the QR code. If you are willing to speak with us after this meeting, that you want to schedule one meeting, you can sign up here and then we'll contact you.
Yeah, we'll do like a one-on-one Zoom call after this. We can plan it out for the next couple of weeks. So that way we can get a more individualized session with you all, if that's something you're interested in doing, so you can better share your concerns. If it's easier for you to do in privacy, we want to be able to afford that to you as well. So yeah, we would like to start this meeting, and we really want to be focused on your concerns. We are not here really to lecture or even really necessarily at this point in our planning process provide a lot of answers. It's more for us to hear from the community as to what concerns you have and what you would like to see represented within its bylaw, and benefit agreements as well. So going forward, we do have a decent bit of people here. So I'm going to ask that you keep kind of what you're saying to about 5 minutes. I don't want to cut anyone off, but I do want to make sure that we can hear from everyone who would like to speak within this time frame that we do have. And also, please keep in mind that we would love to hear your concerns and the negative thoughts that you do have about this. But if you have any benefits that you would like to see from this, we would also love to hear that as well. So without further ado, who would like to speak first? Oh.
Let's get this. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Lawrence Young. I'm in a butter to project on 66 North Union. And I just wanted to make a few points. Let me just look at my notes for a second. Sorry about that. First of all, I think that the protection of the forest must be a factor consideration. It's actually contained in our bylaws already, which adopts and quotes our state constitution. Article 89, I think. So that should at least be considered as a factor. Some of the proposals I thought of was to have some limit on deforestation as a percentage of a proposed project for either solar arrays or BESS battery storage. For instance, any project over 5 acres must limit deforestation to 49% or less. That gives, 1% in favor of protecting the forest. And also that a forest study should be done to rate the ecological importance to the area. Frankly, the battery storage systems should be prohibited. They can be by the Board of Health. These projects get stopped by the Board of Health. Also, I would suggest that no non-disclosure agreements be entered into by any town official, not just for solar projects, but for really any project. And I had submitted statements to the Planning Board and the Board of Health and the Conservation Commission, giving my position as an abutter, along with my better half, named Lori Brandt. She's endorsed these statements as well. So I gave a couple of copies. It also cites some of the bylaws, pertinent bylaws, and even the previous pertinent bylaws that have been changed, and gives our position as an abutter, not only for our own personal, detriment to our own property values, but also to habitats, so forth. So if you could take a look at that, you may find it helpful in a number of ways. Thank you so much.
So thank you. I really appreciate hearing all of those thoughts. And thank you for providing this for us. Who would like to speak next? Anyone have any concerns they would like to bring to the table?
Yeah.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Yes. Here you go.
I'm concerned about the character of the town because we're a completely Aggie town. There is no industrial zoning, and yet we're getting these industrial projects in. And because the state has laid out their priorities, we don't have a choice. And Western Mass, because we have more open inundated. It's not just Plainfield, it's everywhere. And we don't know what the recourse is. And there's some very simple things like, endangered species, wetlands. I'm on the conservation committee. But it's not that we don't want solar, it's that we want it appropriately sited. And to many of us in town, if we're not receiving money from the companies, they're not being appropriately sited. They're being put on their clear cutting forest so far for us. And it just seems like there's better places to put it. What about brownfields? But that isn't what, because of the way the state has laid it out, that's not what is being done here. And in some of the towns, there's been projects that just never went through because it was too much trouble, because there were endangered species. So it was on a wetland. It was too much property. And some of the companies just pulled out. But I feel like because of the new Massachusetts priorities, that's not what's happening. And for the companies that are coming in and developing it, they're getting the permit and developing it, they seem a little bit more responsible, and they seem to be listening to the town, to what people's concerns are. But we have one company that's coming in and they just want the special permit because they're going to sell it. So it puts us in a funny bind because legally, they have a right to do that, but we have concerns about who's going to be responsible down the road. Thank you.
Thank you for that. would like to share next? And also, please, if you can introduce yourself a little bit. And when you leave, we would love to know you more as well. Yeah. Is there anyone who wants to speak?
Anna Hanchett, I'm chair of the Ag.
And hold it close to your mouth.
I'm Anna Hanchett, I'm the chair of the Ag, Agricultural Commission. 25 Pleasant Street, I've gotten numerous letters because I have open farmland. That they would like to cite various facilities on my land. I have cattle and so does my neighbor, and they keep saying, well, you can put these on and then they can graze. Well, you won't have very many solar panels left after they get done. So that alternative for us, because a lot of several of these sites are also considered by the state to be prime soils for farming. That you know that the solutions are compatible with the situation. We are sited on a main trunk of the electricity, so we actually won't benefit from the energy that is collected here. Another thing that concerns me is the disposal of these things. And I was looking at in Pittsfield, they have a large array near Silver Lake. I don't know if they've been over there, but I was looking at the placement of these panels, and it's not so much the panels, it's that there's a lot of cement and other things there. And what happens at the end of the life of these things? Is the company responsible? What land disturbance is going to take place at the end? What are the poisonous or otherwise obstructive methods from the destruction of these things, and hopefully the complete removal, but that's also involving a lot of machinery, which is on agricultural land, which isn't good for anything in ecology or future use of the land. I have numerous concerns, although I'm very much for solar panels. I have them all over my roof. I heat my water with another kind. So it's not that I'm very concerned about climate change. Then we run into the conflict of this deforestation, which, you know, there's so many counteracting issues here. And I think that's at least my difficulty with the ability to come to a good decision on things. Thank you for coming. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
And also, what town are you from in Illinois?
As far as West Chicago.
Oh, I'm Barrington, so I'm all right.
Okay.
My name is Julie. I live in Worthington. I have several concerns. We are facing 3 proposed solar projects, over 20 acres in size, on 3 different sites, in town. I feel like the company we're dealing with, Blue Wave, irrelevant. They're all the same. These are the things I feel like they're targeting Worthington for. They're abusing our bylaws and our zoning laws. We have no industrial zoning, much like Plainfield, much like many of our other Hilltown neighbors, and turning pristine agricultural land into future brown sites. In Worthington, on one proposed site, they're looking to tap near our water aquifer. In the 1970s, we had a huge problem with our water system, people's wells getting poisoned, and the town and the state had to cover it. We're still paying that off. That's unacceptable. to now threaten to do it again. And they're targeting elderly farmers who are getting squeezed by the state with increased tax demands and are simply trying to survive. That's not fair to do. I want to be a farmer. I'm kissing that dream goodbye. It's not. These companies have money that I don't have. And my neighbors can't afford to live. That's not fair. They're also taking advantage of the insurance. A lot of us have minimal insurance requirements in our zoning bylaws because it's housing and farmland. For Worthington, the minimum is $10 million. And they want to put in a 27-acre, it's over 7,000 panels. Does $10 million seem like enough? Does that seem like enough 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now? Doesn't to me. They're also taking advantage of town budgets. Our budgets are between $1.5 million and $3 million at most, and most of our towns are facing override votes to increase our tax amount. And we still don't have enough to pay for full-time legal counsel. How is that fair? And now the state is, the Department of Energy Resources, DOER, is proposing, let's see, 225 CMR 29. And these are guidelines that require our planning board, conservation committees, and all other appeals do everything within a year. And that we're supposed to have a local representative for this position, which again, we don't have money for, and it'll be between 3 and 7 sites at most per town. How do you employ a full-time person to do that in each town? You don't. So now we have to figure out, how do we co-collaborate? Does every town feel the same way we feel about it? Not every town has the same zoning and bylaws. And all of our government officials, for the most part, are volunteer or small stipend. I don't know, I think that covers most of it. I will also say the bonds that they're offering in Worthington for 190 Ridge Road is $36,000 a year. That doesn't even cover the cost to send 2 of our students to Hampshire Regional High School.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name's Ed Stockman from Summit Farm on Summit Street, Plainfield. And we're talking about farmers. I'm a 4th generation farmer. And I want to talk about how these projects are marketed. These are called solar farms. These are not farms. These are industrial factories that put on large acreage of land. Farms are places where food crops are grown, fiber is grown, and in some cases, trees are grown. We have tree farms in this particular area. So I get quite insulted when I hear that it's a wind farm or a solar farm, because these are not farms. This is a marketing ploy that makes it seem like these industrial sites are compatible with the environment. That makes it sound like they're compatible with our rural character in this town. They're not. All right, so I've got a lot of other complaints, but right now, I just want everybody to think about what a farm really is, and the fact that they call them farms for a reason.
Good point.
I'm gonna add one thing. In all my research of decommissioning, the term used is end of life. Do you think a solar panel is alive? Doesn't feel anything. So I think that should be of critical importance to us, that they're dog whistling us to make it think this thing is alive. It's not alive. It's a piece of toxic machinery.
Hi, Elizabeth Lambert, 47 Grand Street, and some of the thing I wanted to start with a bigger picture, even though I realize we're talking about local siting, because it's in a big picture of Eastern Massachusetts or the state government taking advantage of smaller towns like the Quabbin was one that a lot of people don't know. Oh, even before that, Shays Rebellion, which didn't work out very well, but that was another sort of blindness. It had to do with how you pay your taxes, what you can pay them in, either coins or grain or whiskey or whatever. And also the fact that we have a lot of state land that isn't justly compensated for at the same rate that state land in other towns are compensated for. So closer to home, I was hoping, and I would volunteer to help do this, is the state, this whole solar thing should be integrated into a whole ecology environmental plan that the state has. And right now it's working against other state goals. So I think somebody mentioned chapter 87 or whatever it is, the forestry thing. And I would be glad with somebody else to go combing through things where the DOER regs are in direct contradiction to other regs and work that way. And I would also hope that the towns can get together, or somehow all of the rest of Massachusetts get together to pressure our Attorney General to allow us to vote on moratorium. That seems like a practical thing we can do, because right now the time limits and when and where we can change bylaws and whatnot is pretty short. So that's pretty much it. It just sort of breaks my heart to see the land torn up, and I would like to compensate the landowners in some other way, other than having them ruin the land.
Yes. Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
Bruce Davidson, Summit Street, Plainfield. It seems that the portal of this entire issue is not the town, it's not a group of people, it's an individual. So we have volunteer people, we have my wife, one of the volunteers, working tireless, endless amounts of hours to understand what's going on here, the impact of what it's going to be, and how to address this, and we're not even through it. So my point is, portal is not that they came to the town of Plainfield or the state or wherever. They came to one person. And how do I know that? Because they came to me. I've said this before in other meetings. And as it was said at another meeting by another one of our lovely town people who's very dedicated, like sex, just say no, or drugs. Just say no. Now, I'm not aware of the financial situation of anybody in this room other than me. And when I checked my finances yesterday from my investments, it didn't look so great. But so I don't even know mine. But my point is that we need education for everybody, so that when these companies approach any particular person, they fully understand what it is they're getting into, and what it is, more importantly, that they're getting their neighbors into, before they say yes and take the money. These companies are dangling money, and it's very, very, very tempting to take it long before you know the ramifications of what it is that's going to occur once they begin this, especially in a place like Plainfield, Worthington, any of these other beautiful places that many, many of us came to because they were beautiful. We're not against solar, just want to keep having what we came here for. Thank you. I'll get more passionate.
I appreciate the passion. Anyone else? Would anyone else like to speak? Yes.
Thank you.
Of course.
Laurie Israel, South Union Street. I basically have a question. I know we're gonna have a town meeting in May, and I think the planning board is working on revised bylaws. So I'm just wondering, from the planning board and also the panel, what we can do in our bylaws to prevent adverse ramifications from these solar parks. And we can get, yeah. And let's, you can hold the answer.
Okay.
I was going to speak to you unless you want to respond. Sorry?
So maybe we could get him a microphone, Russ, so he didn't have to.
I'm getting ready. My steps.
Page Cerulli, 82 North Union Street.
Oh, sir.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Page Cerulli, 82 North Union Street. We've already spoken pretty extensively. I won't rehash what we discussed, but I did realize we didn't touch on the idea of homeowners insurance. Several insurance experts, both here in town and in other abutting towns, have spoken out on this issue. There's concern that insurance companies might start to increase abutters' homeowners insurance costs because of the increased risk of things like fire that come with these farms. In addition, someone in Worthington gave a really informative presentation on the fact that if homeowners do not have, let's say, flood insurance, and one of these sites experiences a sediment basin failure, the water runs down into a house, that's flood water, that is not covered. She provided an example, not of a case involving a solar farm, but of a homeowner, one of her clients, who had a similar experience, damage caused by another company. She hadn't been paid for 7 years. So I think there needs to be some sort of precaution clause put in. Maybe the solar farm gets shut down until an abutter is paid for damage to their town or their home or something. I don't know what the solution is about potential increased rates, but if we could have something we can prove in writing that our insurance company is increasing our premiums because of a solar farm, I feel like the developer needs to cover those costs. We're looking at 20 years of potential higher premiums due to something we have no control over. Perfect. Absolutely.
Very catcher.
And speaking of all the potentials or things, measures we could put into the bylaw, just simply give you a few examples, and we could definitely imagine more. And I think one thing that speaks to what I've mentioned is the system size. Speaking of how large is the power plant, and within the bylaw, we could potentially design one tiered approach. For example, if people are worried about like large power plants coming to the town immediately, there could be potentially like tiered approach. We could build a little bit and say how that goes and keep monitoring the impact from that part and then keep building that. That's just like a example. The other example could be we could like design the distance to the property so that the property nearby wouldn't be immediately impacted. And there are other ways, for example, monitor the noise level and also monitor some other ecological value along the project. And speaking of, you have mentioned about the full circle, like the after life. I guess life is not the right word. After the project is finished, how the waste should be handled. So those are all the ways that could be right into the bylaw that we could all design and to address those concerns we've speak of.
I just want to add too that that's like really one of the benefits of having these sorts of meetings to kind of understand what types of concerns residents have. So that way those concerns can hopefully be addressed in the community benefits agreement and in the bylaws.
Conrad Limino, South Street, Plainfield. I'm a member of the Energy Committee, but speaking of my personal opinion today, one thing that's always been critical on these projects is the battery energy storage systems. And the state has made that connection with the state's solar provision in the state zoning law that it's that the storage is an integral part of the photovoltaics, so it can't be prohibited or unreasonably regulated. But the fact that the lithium-ion batteries are the technology of choice, perhaps just they've been longer in development and they have the great amount of density, so we have a small footprint for a good amount of storage. But they have attracted, of course, a lot of criticism because of the history of accidents with these devices. And of course, they've learned from all those, and the technology is getting better. So the failure rate for a particular battery goes down, but exponentially they're being deployed more and more. So still be seeing some failures with possible very severe consequences, like water supplies, for instance. Yes, there are very benign technologies. It's just that they haven't matured quite as much that wouldn't be that kind of a hazard. For instance, a system that's been in the River Valley Co-op, I guess it's East Hampton, new facility there. They've got solar on the building and the parking canopy. So about a megawatts, fairly small, but there's battery storage there. That's a zinc-based technology that's made in this. The company makes the product in this company. There's absolutely benign, no fire risk. All the materials are obtainable in this country, and is easily recycled at the end of the battery's life. Problem is the density probably isn't practical for some of these developers. Although you do see on the plans, the battery storage is a pretty small percentage of the total footprint of the project. So I don't know what it'll take, but there is some driver to make those technologies that are maybe not quite as dense as the lithium ion, which find their application in motor vehicles because you need high density there. But it seems projects, ground mounted projects, could take up more space. They're going to be very benign hazard wise. And I do aware that Pittsfield City, they've had a couple industrial scale projects with storage, and they just a year ago decided to change the bylaws to or their zoning to prohibit prohibit lithium ion technology. Haven't heard any challenge to that yet. Whether the state will consider that the same as banning the storage completely because that's the preeminent technology, or whether that's going to be seen as legitimate. But maybe that's something to certainly consider in any zoning. And if no matter how small the risk of some kind of technology, maybe to get away with encouraging less so. Thank you.
I'll take it. Ed Stockman again. My barn roof testifies to my and Chris, my wife's liking of solar energy. Our panels cover that entire roof. So it's not that I'm opposed to solar energy, but these BESS, the battery electric storage systems, have a bad reputation, and deservingly so. They explode, they burn, and we live in a forested community. I would say Plainfield's probably 85% forested now. All right. A lot of our good agricultural land is under trees. So the technology has really been pushed forward without enough testing. I hear about pesticides that are the most wonderful things, totally safe. 5 years later, they're banned. I hear about medications. They'll do all kinds of miracle cures, and 10 years later, there's lawsuits about them. Nuclear power. I'm old enough to remember when nuclear power was totally safe and would be so cheap, you couldn't meter it. All right, I've got to be old enough to remember that. So I'm leery of technologies that have been rushed to market. And I think these BESS systems that are proposed for this community have been rushed to market. And we have to take a hard look at them and know that whether we want to live with these for the next, I'm not going to live 20 years, but lots of people in this region.
I'm rooting for you.
All right. All right. I need prayers. That's what I really need. So at any rate, we have to take a hard look at it. And Conrad just talked about a battery storage system that's much more benign. These lithium ion batteries do have a bad reputation. You can find it all over the computer if you research it yourself, deservingly so. So I think we ought to be looking at other ways of storing the electricity that's produced in these solar fields. Not solar farms, solar fields or solar arrays. All right.
Right, yes. Yes, it's also bad.
Betsy Columbus, 168 Summit Street. Sorry, it did go like that. We all have well systems here. We have no town water. And even though these sites may be atop of an aquifer, we can't prevent them from going there. I mean, the Board of Health could, but even if they can, even if they try, they will get sued. Now, we're told that the Board of Health generally wins those suits, and yet it's going to cost our town money. So anything that happens to our aquifer could destroy all of our wells, as spoken about by the woman from Worthington. And it is a real concern for us. On top of the fact that it costs, even though they're telling us like, oh, it's going to be, you could get cheaper electric. Oh, we're going to pay taxes. We still have to pay our lawyers. I volunteer on the Conservation Commission. And as my husband said, I have spent an inordinate amount of time trying to research this stuff. We are not experts. were volunteers. You know, if it was happening in Boston, in New York City, there'd be experts. We have a steep learning curve, and it's not fair to the towns because we all also have to have jobs and do other things in our lives. These people are getting paid to do it, big money, not a little bit. And it's draining the towns. And as much as we try to band together and get the towns to talk to one another, it falls on deaf ears in Boston.
And our time is precious. They're wasting our time.
You're here.
It's true, but so it really is a big concern. And that's the big picture. The little picture is things like noise, and people go like, oh, you know, we went to a solar field and didn't hear any noise. Let me tell you, if my neighbors behind me play music a mile away, I hear it because sound travels through the woods. And there's a quarry near us, and they used a machine for a couple of nights. We were over a mile away and heard it all night long. It isn't terrible, but it really affects your health. And we called them, and they were actually very kind about it, and we haven't heard it since. Whatever they did, I don't know, but we haven't heard it since. And so those are the little things that will affect our everyday life. And I think, anyway, yeah, so, yeah. Oh, sorry.
My wife is so busy that my house is very dusty. I don't like it.
I'll get the microphone back in a second, but I just want to say too, I do appreciate the amount of research everyone's doing on this. And you're right. There are usually a lot of people that are on things in more bigger cities. And if anyone would like, you could ask us questions. We could send you articles and synthesize them for you. Through this clinic, we are supposed to be very impartial to everything, be unbiased. So in any of the documents, the research that we send, it will be just the facts pretty much.
Can you post that on our town website?
Yeah, sure. Great. Yeah, and then also we have the QR code for doing individual meetings. I can put my email address on there as well. May take me a second to get to them. I am still a full-time student, but I'll make sure to get you the information, and I promise that. All right, I just wanted to quickly butt in really quick.
Oh, yes.
Sorry.
Give it to that. Well, hi, Peg Keller, Summit Street, Plainfield. I just want to pick up on the thread of limited professional staff capacity here. I think it's really important just to differentiate between Eastern Mass and Western Mass. And I'm particularly worried about our Board of Health because Planning Board and Zoning Board, I'm chair of the Zoning Board and facilitating our comprehensive plan process, which we're in the midst of. Planning Board, Zoning Board statutory requirements are fairly straightforward, but I think the Board of Health got pulled into this with really like deer in the headlights. And I hope that there is a resource network that's becoming available to them, because when in their guidelines, when they're used to things like Title V and septic stuff and the transfer station and, you know, is there room in the swap shop for anything else? And then all of a sudden to have a whole collection of folks who are concerned and possibly anti-solar development to come to their meetings, and they have in their bylaws or regulatory statutes being able to input on things that affect general health and welfare. What does that mean to them? And so I just want to express my feelings for them, and glad I'm not on that board, but the Board of Health really, I think, is kind of a new player here. So I think that should be taken into consideration, and kudos to everyone on the Board of Health.
Elizabeth Lambert again. I don't know how this could be put into a citing suggestion, that you're working on, but I did a lot of research on the situations in Warwick, New York, where there were three fires, two of them one of them in a small facility that is equal to one of the ones we're going to get using the exact, not just lithium ion, but lithium iron phosphate batteries, which are the exact same, possibly from the same company that we're getting them from. And it's sort of like I followed the money. It was very strange. I followed the companies all the way back to an unsuable company that went out of business after the fires, partly because of the fires. It was the companies that made the storage systems and put the batteries in them. So I think by something that couldn't be a bylaw itself, but we could put it in, is to look at these things as systems. And the safety of the system as a whole, and not just, oh, this kind of battery is safe and this kind of container is safe. These things were UL, they were, I looked up all their stuff and it was great until there was a storm, water got in, somebody did something wrong, and there were fires. So when people say the batteries are generally safe, or we're getting them from a underwriter's laboratory place, it doesn't mean much. And I don't know how to write that in. Also, the battery maker for 66 North Union is in China, unsuable. So maybe as a caution to the people who are making the decisions, look at every aspect as it works with other aspects and not just as one little thing and the next little thing. Thank you.
Hi, Lawrence Young again. I wanted to follow up on a couple of things. First of all, as to the potential damage to an abutter, I think that's something that should be considered when they post a bond. The project developer to allow for potential liability for damage to neighbors. Also, as to the Board of Health, the Massachusetts Association of Health Boards, to your point, has quite a bit of expertise and personnel that are there to assist the boards of health. And the Board of Health, also to a point made earlier, they always win. At least historically, they've never lost, especially I'm talking about the Massachusetts Boards of Health. And also, I mentioned earlier a proposal for a prohibition on non-disclosure agreements. And just to expand on that a little bit, I'm particularly worried about AI facilities, AI data banks, which cover huge areas. These companies have billions, billions, and billions of dollars. And they prefer to have non-disclosure agreements before they move into a community. Some towns actually encourage AI data centers to broaden their tax base and otherwise bring money and jobs supposedly to the community. And there are actually town officials in some towns that have encouraged AI facilities and signed non-disclosure agreements, which I find to be just generally unseemly for a public official to enter into a non-disclosure agreement with a private company. But particularly, I'm hoping that such a bylaw would dissuade any even applications for AI facilities. So those are the points I wanted to expand on. Thank you.
Susie Westwood from 161 West Street. Oh. Does anybody need me to repeat who I am? Okay, thank you.
Closer. We can't hear you.
All right, I'll stand out. That'll help. I just want to add my disapproval of the AI centers because they use so much water and so much electricity. And I've been petitioning and saying that I think that they need to provide their own water and their own electricity if they want to come into a community. And not all communities are welcoming them. There have been some who have been lawfully able to refuse to let them come in. I didn't realize that this was gonna start at 1, so I'm sorry I'm late. But I know Elizabeth knows a lot about this, and I certainly agree with what she has been finding out. And I have solar panels on my house, so I'm not against solar panels, but I'm just really bothered by this influx of so many companies, big companies, wanting to come in and put their panels in, and sometimes their batteries. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Sue Allen. I live at 35 Grant Street. It's actually really bizarre that the reason we moved back to Plainfield was we lost all our farmland in Gill that we were haying. Northfield, Mount Herman, we were renting all of their hay fields, and we were bumped out of the hay fields so that they could put all their solar panels up. Let me tell you, it is the most disgusting looking thing to have known how gorgeous it was. And we worked with the school, making sure that they could come in and use all the fields, you know, for their soccer and whatever, and then to have it completely blown out of the water. So you will never see solar panels at 35 Grant Street. There's 40 acres, they won't have them. But I've been trying to just learn, because I'm not against solar. So I've been trying to sit in on the Zoom meetings and whatever. But what struck me the other day was watching footage from Ohio with solar panel fields completely blown away with the weather they've been having. I know the wind here in Plainfield is something that you can't describe. Our hay wagons flip over, truck bodies flip over. What happens when your solar array takes off? And who has to fix it? And what happens to the environment when these things flip up and disappear on you into the woods, or, you know, the aquifers or whatever? That's a huge concern. And it didn't occur to me until I was watching all of these fields that were no longer. So I would just like to know what happens. So that's it. Thank you. Thank you. Next.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does anyone else want to talk before I talk again? Yes, please.
I'll move you to Worthington.
I don't know.
Thank you. Donald Shelton from 215 Prospect Street. I'm wondering if this group of folks that are from MIT would be willing to help Plainfield advocate for no solar here in Plainfield, if that's what this town really would like. And that's something that's you're also here to potentially facilitate.
There's a truck.
So as part of our agreement, like I was mentioning earlier, we need to be kind of impartial to everything, and advocate for the community. So it kind of is a little bit of a double-edged sword. So we wouldn't be able to advocate for no solar, especially since our scope of work is to assist the planning board in creating that bylaw that we were talking about. So as part of our work, it really is kind of advocating for the community along with the planning board for that bylaw statement. Yeah.
My name is Jude Wamwell and I'm on the planning board, and I don't know if everybody wants to introduce themselves or not, but and I'm certainly not an expert. But I will say that there is a law now in Massachusetts that you cannot ban solar, you cannot ban the batteries. Well, you could, you can put provisions, you can put conditions.
It can't be unreasonable, but.
They can't be unreasonable. And what will happen is, even, let's say let's say we want to reject a proposal. It has to be justified with our bylaws. If it's not, we will be sued. And if you've read the current, then the town has to engage a lawyer, which we don't have that money. So if you read about the current proposal, this company had a proposal in Worcester. The Worcester said, we don't want you. They sued, and of course the company won because Worcester did not justify from their bylaws why they were refusing. So that's why we have to be very careful in everything that we do, which I know the abutters have really understood that up to this point. But that's why working very carefully on the bylaws with all of your input would be extremely helpful. And this has to happen before May.
So I'm Kathy Filkins and I live on Maple Street, closer. I live on Maple Street and I'm also on the planning board. My joke was I just joined like in August, September, the same time as June. I thought I was gonna be figuring out which streets in town were still in public use or not, but it became solar. So I wanted to say, there was a question, so we are not paying for MIT to be here. MIT is doing this pro bono as part of their program. The job of MIT is not to write our bylaws. The job of the planning board and working with the town is to write our bylaws. And Jude and I have been working very closely to look at what the state has proposed as model bylaws, to look at other towns such as Ashfield. Somebody had recommended that to us, which have some very strong bylaws, to look at the existing projects that we've had to date and what we've put forth in terms of conditions. So instead of having to do that as a condition every time a developer knows, wait a minute, that's going to be a little bit tough. Maybe this isn't the right town to site my project. And so we've developed what is an initial draft of those bylaws. Our hope with the MIT group is that, number one, they're a neutral party, so they can host sessions like this, get all of your feedback. Hey, planning board, this is what we're hearing. Sometimes we're in a meeting, we don't always process everything we hear. And then also the individual meetings gives you an opportunity to talk incognito, to say, this is what I'm really thinking. And they're gonna share all of that feedback with us, so that my goal is, like, things that I've heard today is to do traceability. They said they don't want to have deforestation so much. What do we have are we adding to the bylaws to address that concern? They say they don't want to have so much solar in town. What's in the bylaw? We're really concerned about BESS. Can we say we're not going to have standalone BESS? Can have BESS as accessory use, because I think if we don't say we can have it as accessory use, the Attorney General is going to knock down our bylaws. So our job as a planning board is to work with the MIT team to really help us gather all of the feedback and then use them as a sounding board. Hey, do you know any other towns in the state of Massachusetts where they're doing X, Y, and Z? Can you help us find some more information? So they're acting as our consultants to go help us gather more information from the folks that are in town and the groups that are not in town. So I just wanted to kind of share that. And they're very lovely and are working very hard and are doing kind of all these one-on-one meetings for us. So it's just a really great resource for us to really feel we're getting everybody. And
just one more thing is that Jerry and Peter are closer to experts than we are and had all these conditions in our last project. And that's another huge resource for us. So it's not just us, we have all four been working quite closely together.
Right?
Yeah, one more.
If there's anybody here who wants to be on the planning board, they need another member.
Yes.
We'll start us a zoning board.
Hey, first. Come out with your own name. A job better, sure to run.
There's just nobody there, right?
My experience in Plainfield, if you want a job, just need to stand still on.
Oh, that's obvious.
Also to echo a few more things, we, once again, not being paid, also MIT is not paying us for this work either. Full transparency, we are doing this for credit, so we are getting college credit from this, but no funding for us at all. Yes, full disclosure. And also, the one-on-one meetings with us, while we will share some of the concerns, we won't also de-identify you, I guess, or identify. It will be anonymous. So if you say something that you're like, I don't want anyone to hear this, we will ask kind of what we can share of that. Of like, can we refer back and say like, oh, can I say the general idea of this? But we won't share your name as the person who said it either. So just wanted to put that out there as well. And while we still have more time, would anyone else like to say anything to the group? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Chris Swindlehurst. I'm from town of Beckett, and we're dealing with the same things that you are. And I just had an interesting idea. I think fortunately we have to do this because we have to stop burning fossil fuel. Fossil fuel, I owned an oil company, and let me tell you, fossil fuels pollute the town, can pollute the water. So it's kind of something we should be doing or something thinking about. I had an idea in Beckett is we formed what's called a municipal light plant, and we built our own broadband network in town. And now that's actually producing a profit, $300,000 to $500,000 a year. That's going into our tax base. Our municipal light plant can borrow money, municipal bonds at really good rates, and we could build these solar projects ourselves. And then instead of just getting some small amount of tax money, we could actually get all the profit could go back to the tax base. So I think that's something we should look at. That's something we're going to look at in Beckett. And I understand all the concerns about clearing trees, and we don't want to, we should, if we can avoid that, we should try. But unfortunately, to try to get this done in the short term, near term, might have to do that. Anyway, those are just my thoughts. Thanks for doing this.
Anyone else?
Julie from Worthington again. I have a large list. I'm gonna try and go through it succinctly. These companies are leasing land from our elderly farming neighbors. And doing so, they have no ownership, and so they can claim bankruptcy and like, oopsie poopsie, nobody's there. And now the town is responsible for cleaning up the brown site. And as we've expressed, we are both understaffed and underfunded. To highlight this, the town of Newton has 60 building inspectors. The town of Worthington has one person who works 4 hours a week. Somebody brought up insurance. With insurance, also our home equities are going down. For many of us, this is where our wealth resides, in our homes. Can be slashed by, I think the data says like 3 to 7%, but most likely people are going to experience drops between 10 and 50% home value loss. In Worthington, the aquifer is only 2 to 4 feet beneath ground level. And so they want to puncture post holes in for the fencing, they want to puncture holes in for the panels themselves. That's over 7,500 puncture holes into our aquifer. Even if they don't hit the aquifer, you're inevitably going to hit the rock bed and change the way the water flows, impacting flood insurance. Worthington filed three moratoriums with the state due to a special town meeting in January, February. They will be retroactive or not retroactive, so they will go into effect as of like January, February when we voted. But it's basically useless given the Dover Amendment, which is what the planning board spoke about, that says July 1st, we have to start consolidated local permit applications, and at the latest by October 1st. Many of our town meetings are in May. That does not give our zoning and planning boards nearly enough time to draft legislation and bylaws that would make sense to protect our towns and our community members who are generally having fears about this process. From the companies, there's no real decommissioning plan. On top of the fact that they don't want us to have decommissioning boards or an inspector board or insurance boards that I think they should have to pay for if they're going to come into our communities again that have no industrial zoning. Also, when we first got told about solar, it was going to be on every rooftop. I'm wondering like how much of Boston and Eastern Mass is covered, because everything west of Worcester is being targeted. I drove by in West Brookfield and there were 3 large-scale solar panel sites around one farm. I would also like to note the health department has a lot of power, but so does the fire department. Worthington's fire chief, Mike Dondiago, has been doing so much work. Please reach out to him if you want some of that resource support. We have the weather and the elements out here. Somebody mentioned the wind. Worthington is like the coldest town in Massachusetts, on top of our frost heaves. And what is the sound of the wind between the solar panels? These companies are resisting evaluation and environmental pre-studies for things like glare and sound and water quality. And they don't want to do it across the town. They just want to do it at their proposed sites. Our aquifer feeds the Westfield River. So poisoning Worthington will also poison Westfield and everyone downstream of us. The companies are providing specs during these planning and zoning board meetings. They don't want to offer specs because it's too far away and the technology will change. So why do we have to be the guinea pigs for your technology that you don't even know if it works? And the stuff that doesn't work, you're like, oh, we're working on better stuff all the time. No, thank you. They also communicate with Worthington's building and zoning board or zoning and planning board 6 hours before our meetings. So how are our boards supposed to digest that information and reasonably present it to their community? I can't. They also have jobs and other commitments. How is the state going to receive this info at all from you guys? And I really do want to know, like, how much of Boston and everything east of Worcester has put in solar panels? Because they ask a lot of this half of the state, but only when there's a resource to extract. And I hate to break it to everyone, we can't eat solar panels. Maybe Eastern Mass doesn't get that, but this is where a lot of our food is grown. And we do have like a 2030 agricultural sustainability plan, turning farm fields into solar waste sites, wasn't it? And then the last thing is cybersecurity. Littleton, Massachusetts was a community of 10,000 people, just had their water system hacked by like a Chinese, I don't know, hacker state. We have no means to protect against that. We have no threat of that currently. Okay, thank you. Thank you, community. Check if anybody on the Zoom has a question.
Yeah,
Thank you. Does anyone on the Zoom have a question that they would like to ask or statement concerns that they would like to bring forth?
I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Okay.
I'm trying to see if anybody else. Our state rep is in the room. She said Erica, so she's hearing everything that we're saying. Thank you, Lindsay.
Does anyone else in the room want to speak? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ryan Patton from 37 South Union Street. I recently came across this concept around deforestation that distinguishes between a soft deforestation and a hard deforestation. So something like agricultural conversion would be considered a soft deforestation, whereas something like a parking lot development would be considered a hard deforestation. It's kind of, it's not really clear to me where solar arrays fall into that category. And sort of going off of that, there's a lot of seem to be a lot of issues about what happens to these sites when they're decommissioned after what I think it's typically 20 years. Seems like nobody really knows. I assume somebody out there knows how to do it, but it doesn't seem to be general knowledge. And I'm wondering if there could be something worked into our bylaws requiring some kind of ecological restoration plan, either carried out by the landowner or the developer. Just some way to get that post 20-year vision solidified into our bylaws.
Hi, Betsy Clumpus again. I just want to add to that because at one of the meetings, we were informed that while they would pull out the wiring, they would leave the pipes in. So, exactly. So that to me seems like an eternal pollution.
It is.
And so, I'll give it to you. So I don't have an answer. It just it felt wrong to me, but that's just the way it is because it's more disturbing, I was told, to pull out the pipes.
More expensive.
That infrastructure.
So just to speak to that, in our current bylaw, that's not allowed. They have to remove everything. So
They said that at the meeting?
They were not informed apparently, but our current bylaw does not allow them to leave anything behind.
Good.
And the notion of adding some sort of requirement for an ecological restoration plan is a brilliant idea. Thank you.
Yeah. Does that bylaw address who pays for this? Because if the landowner has to pay for it, it's gonna be. Yeah, but the ecological restoration.
That doesn't exist yet.
Oh, okay. Put it.
I could just shout this. Another bylaw possibility is that a site can only be used once. 20 years down the line, that there needs to be something built in to keep it from being reused or somehow also saving, then they'll go to the next catch. But it's I haven't thought it out because I just thought of it now.
That seems to sometimes be counteractive though, because maybe the site is semi-ruined and then you're ruining another one by moving on.
We need to think about that. Who gets the right of first refusal of whatever, and maybe a different landowner by then. You never know.
Right.
I'm also shallow.
Well, they can hear you on the Zoom, so you really should hit the microphone.
Susie Westwood for 161 West.
Trying to.
Okay. Susie Westwood, 161 West Street. Oh my goodness, what a difference. Since we are going to be working on our bylaws and we've brought up this AI data center thing, I would like to see that worked on as well, if possible. Because if we don't do it now, we may be facing the same thing that we're facing right now. Thank you.
Susie, just to that end, it's not an allowed use in town. We will not ever get one unless we have it as an allowed use.
What?
An AI center, an AI data center is not an allowed use in town. Right. So an AI data center is not an allowed use in town, so that there's no way someone could file an application to provide, to build one here.
Does it specifically say no AI, or is it because of the land use?
No, at the back of our zoning bylaw, we have a use table. And the use table has allowed uses, uses that are allowed by special permit, uses that require site plan review, and prohibited uses. And we have a clause that says that if the use is not listed, it is considered prohibited unless they can make a case that it is substantially similar to a use that we allow. Well, I can't think of a single use that we allow that is substantially similar to an AI data center. So as it stands right now, we won't see one.
Thank you.
I really like the suggestions that are given for the bylaw, and I just wanted to ask if anyone has any other direct suggestions for adding to that bylaw or other benefits that you think that the community should be receiving from this.
Hi, I'm Christina French and I'm also from Beckett, and it just occurred to me, sorry. My name is Christina French. I'm also here with Chris from Beckett. And one of the things that just occurred to me in this meeting is that, I think that the woman from Windsor was talking about Worthington, how filing bankruptcy could be a pretty viable option. Maybe there'd be a way to, in the bylaws, state there needs to be like an escrow account for the remediation of the property before they start. So that it's not, you don't leave yourselves open or ourselves and Beckett open to that possibility, which seems pretty likely with large corporations.
And I wonder if we can put something in the bylaws to provide a stipend for all of those of us who are on these committees that are doing all this research. Well, I mean, look, they're paying a landowner some sum of money before they get their permit. So maybe they need to pay us for our research.
Earlier, Laurie Israel, South Union Street. Earlier, somebody mentioned a good neighbor agreement. Could somebody explain that? Yeah, there was some sort of agreement with the town.
Peter, can you talk about the energy, the green, the green community, the green? That is the green community agreement?
No, I think it was some sort of extra agreement between the developer or the landowner and the town to give the town benefits.
Oh.
Community benefits agreement.
What's it called?
Community benefits agreement.
Okay, and are the projects in this town going to have community benefit agreements?
Yes, they're attached to the bylaw.
And what are they? We can speak to that.
So that's what we're trying to help with. That's what the planning board is including in the bylaws, and that's what we're trying to get ideas as to what should be included in there. I don't know, Peter, if you wanted to speak on that at all, or there any? Okay.
I've missed, the work of the bylaw.
So we've been looking at some things, some concepts. One concept we're looking at is limiting the amount of lot coverage. So for example, only allowing 30% of a parcel to be developed as opposed to having it not limited. I heard today earlier about a concept of limiting the amount of growth per year that might slow the process a little bit, so we get a chance to get more comfortable with these projects as they're rolled out and don't get inundated with a large impact in a short amount of time. We, as the planning board, have thought about the fact that it would be potentially viable for a group, a neighborhood, to decide that they might be interested in hosting a solar development. And then how does that play out so that we don't end up with 3 different projects in a neighborhood, but they could work together. And in that sense, we would allow that if there was a project that overlapped onto multiple parcels, that they wouldn't have to require setbacks where the boundary is common to the development, but would have to have setbacks. We're talking about increasing our setback distances from abutters to 200 feet on side yards, 300 feet from a road, requiring they be screened so they're not visually accessible, requiring glare assessments, etc. So we're trying to develop a menu of requirements that mitigates the impact without prohibiting the potential. And then the other thing we're talking about is evaluation of wildlife corridors so that we don't end up with large areas of acreage fenced in that prohibit wildlife from migrating, etc. So one threshold we talked about, and I'm not sure it's the appropriate one, but would be any site over 10 acres would have to have a wildlife corridor developed in it, so it was separated into smaller enclosed parcels. So we're looking at concepts that address our sort of rural character in a way that allows us to maintain it, but doesn't say to the developer that you're prohibited because we just can't do that under the current state law. So we're trying to come up with ways to mitigate the potential for large scale projects, at the same time encouraging our participation in this renewable energy transition. The other piece is that with respect to BESS, we are exploring whether or not, to Conrad's point, we can prohibit certain chemistries from being used without prohibiting BESS entirely. So it seems to me if we can mitigate the fire hazard, a lot of our concerns go away. The more benign this becomes as a development, the less risk we're taking on as a community as a result. So that's sort of where we are in our exploration at this point.
Can I say one more?
You can, but before you go, I just want to say, I mean, before we stop, I'd love for you to ask questions of us, if you have any.
Yeah, do you want it? I just want. So one of the new things we're gonna be requiring in the bylaws is that any developer develops a community benefit plan. There's 2 different types. There's a community benefit plan and a community benefit agreement. Agreement is legally binding. A benefit plan is more like a document outlining. And the goal of that is that the developer works with the town, they work with the landholder, and they work with the abutters to talk about what is gonna be the benefit to the town of this development, as opposed to, it kind of brings them together at the table. And so one of the things, and the MIT folks can talk more about community benefit plans, but one of the things is to have more of a conversation that isn't just, this is how much money the landowner is gonna get, this is how much the town is gonna get. It's really to talk about community benefits in a broader category. So that's what that piece is, because I think that was.
I just wanted to point out one more thing.
Betsy Klompus again. One more thing that hasn't been, well, vaguely been brought up, is that we have a volunteer fire department.
Yeah, that was my last.
And all the towns surrounding us have volunteer fire departments. These are people that have jobs that.
Outside of these towns.
Thank you. I will speak. Thank you. So. And we had a fire last summer because there's winds. We've been in a drought, and this is also something that there's been this denial by the solar companies saying, oh, we're working on the 100-year, fire, the 10-year fire. We are having the yearly fire now because of climate change. So when we had this last fire, we had 5 fire departments coming because they can't possibly, people have jobs. They can't be there all the time. And I think it's something that we have to address because I think we all know it, but I don't know what the solution is for that.
So I just want to add a little bit more on the community benefits agreement. It's essentially an agreement between developers and host municipalities, and to kind of tailor to meet some specific needs of the host community. So it's not just about restrictions, it's more about if this project were to happen, what benefits can this community get? And there are some examples. For example, you can require developers to improve the community infrastructure. If there is any need in the town to, I don't know, fix the water pipes, water system, or other needs, we could use that opportunity. And the other way is kind of to create some special fundings for some services. For example, many people care about the fire capacity, the fire potentials. We could require like developers to allocate a specific amount of money to be able to meet that needs. And then there are other like possibilities like environmental monitoring, electricity bill reduction. For example, for a case study in New York, they have the total community benefits 1.5 million, and it's divided between 2 installments. And it is designed like this way, only if the developer sign the CBA, the community benefits agreement, and they can begin installment. So this is all agreed before they can even implement the project. And those benefits could come from various ways that could benefit here, like employment, education, police, agriculture, and it all depends on what people need.
Yeah, like looking at the town of Medway, Massachusetts, there was a 250 megawatt BESS system that was built there. And they had payments for 15,000 per year for emergency preparedness training, 20,000 per year for public safety, 100,000 per town to retain independent consultants and counsel. There was a 647,500 to fund a risk reduction and training position within the fire department. So it is stuff that this is things to kind of take inspiration from to look at for the town and make it fit for Plainfield, because obviously all towns are different. And I know that here it is a volunteer fire department. So figuring out ways that the community benefits can match with the needs that you all want to see. Essentially.
Thank you. Chris Stockman, Summit Street. Just hearing about the community agreement, I wonder who would be responsible for enforcing that? And does it go deeper than just what the agreement is, or what could happen if the agreement wasn't met?
Thank you. So that's a great question. I want to say the agreements are legally binding. I think there was discussion about two different kinds, the community benefits agreement, and there's the community.
The plan.
The plan.
The plan is not binding, the agreement is binding.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So with the community benefits agreement, it is legally binding. So if the developer were to fall through on those demands, then it could have legal action taken against the developer for not following through with agreements, because it is legally binding.
Why would, but at whose expense?
To get the community support. And that's why a lot of times we do see communities that it's best to think of this stuff ahead of time. And unless you think about it ahead of time, then some of these agreements can fall through the cracks, and then the community is not going to get anything in return. Because there are very, very valuable concerns that everyone has regarding these systems. So if the developer can try to mitigate some concerns regarding, fire by allocating money for the town's fire department or emergency preparedness training, that could kind of get the community to be more willing to work together.
But didn't you say that can we put in the bylaws that they have to sign it before it goes through anywhere? Okay.
Yep.
I think it also could include something like, we're taking out 20 acres of trees, we have to reforest 20 acres of trees in a designated area.
Nice.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Gloria, it's really good. I'm probably speaking for a lot of us. We love going up the main road, South Central Street and Route 116, and seeing all this beautiful farmland that just makes life wonderful here. What's to prevent a solar park of going into one of these large open spaces that we see every day? I think I'm asking Peter.
Sorry.
Yeah, hi, everybody. I don't have an answer to that, except that I do know that, for example, the farm in the central town, who the current owner, I don't recall, but they're under a permanent agricultural restriction. So that land is protected. We have been talking on the board about whether it makes sense to only allow, for example, what they call agrivoltaics, which are elevated panels that track the sun that allow for agriculture to take place underneath. And those would require an agreement with the developer and a farmer or the landowner to agree to the type of crop, and an agricultural plan be developed alongside with the array, so that the land doesn't become converted. We're not quite sure how that gets phrased yet, but that's a concept that we've thought about. So we're still developing criteria that might be part of what could become a community benefit plan that a developer presents, that we then convert into an agreement. And part of the development of the plan would allow for us as a community to provide feedback for what ultimately becomes part of the agreement. And the one other thing I wanted to mention that I didn't talk about is that we are going to include a restriction on development in buffer lands or any riverfront protection area, which is currently, some disturbance is allowed by the Wetlands Protection Act, but we feel pretty strongly that those areas should be excluded from solar development.
There you go.
Yeah, I was curious about whether our bylaws could include greater setbacks to wetlands than the buffer zones that are outlined in the Conservation Commission laws.
Did you want to say?
I was just wondering if the.
Hold it up to your mouth.
I was just wondering if the bylaw, our bylaws and buffer zones and things included aquifers, and also we're at the headwaters of a lot of the downstream waterways and town water resources, which are really gonna be tapped by any of these facilities.
Ted Stockman, Summit Street again. Peter mentioned agrivoltaics. I've researched agrivoltaics for other committees that I've been part of. And as a fourth generation farmer, I'm interested in preserving land, not using it for other things, especially prime ag land. But with agrivoltaics, you actually do some agriculture and some generation of electricity on the same land. The problem with that is you don't do either one of them well. You don't do agriculture well because the panels and their supports hamper any kind of machinery. Now, maybe you could graze sheep underneath the panels, but those panels are absorbing solar energy, that the solar energy that would be needed for the plants to grow underneath the panels. Now, I have not seen any research on the nutrition that's lacking when a plant is starved for solar energy, but somebody should be doing that as well. So if you put panels on a piece of land, you wind up with not productive agriculture. Maybe you could do some haying if they're spaced far enough apart, the panels. But if you space them far enough apart, you're not going to produce a lot of electricity either. So in my research of agrivoltaics, I find that both technologies, both agriculture and the generation of electricity, either one of them are all that effective because they get in the way of each other. I'm done.
Eddie behind you.
Peg Keller again. I just keep coming back to our limited staff capacity. And want to remind people that the applications that we're seeing right now, we have one behind the church that the zoning board, when we were the special permit granting authority, did a while ago. So we kind of have our own case study about fire department ever getting calls or what the responses might have been. There is battery storage there. Downflow drainage issues to the property behind the church that was directly impacted. Construction activity for the abutters. If you're researching, you know, that we do have our own example, but when I hear about community plans, which community benefit agreements and plans, when the special permit granting authority got changed from the zoning board to the planning board, I don't know what happened to everything after that. We've had probably at least 3 building inspectors who really are in charge with zoning enforcement. We've had a multiple number of people on the select board. So I think our internal structure about enforcement and monitoring of these things is super important. Because if we have these things in place and nobody pays attention after, then they have no value.
Hi, Lori Brand. I'm in a butter to 66 North Union Street. I was thinking about, it's not an equal exchange to cut old growth or any kind of established forest and replant it. It's comparing apples and oranges to the ecosystem that exists there as a complex community of systems. Just wanted to put that in.
Good morning.
I also want to be mindful of time. We have about 15 more minutes left. So I just wanted to ask if anyone has any last minute thoughts or anything they would like to say specifically. It would be great to hear some more stuff about what you'd like to see included in a benefit plan or agreement or the bylaw itself.
Well,
To Peg's point, I wonder if we can include, you know, because we're not paid, can we include a person that does get paid to be the monitoring system? Or, you know, do they provide that and do we trust it? I don't know, but that, you know, once we go through this agonizing process, then who monitors it really?
Exactly, thank you.
I was inspired by something that was said earlier about, I think you had mentioned that some plan, included a provision for, attorney fees.
Enforcement, yeah.
What a great idea. If you could, possibly include it in, the agreement, plan initially, that in the event of litigation, that there would be some compensation for attorney's fees, spent by the town. Yeah, great idea.
We don't even have a full-time post office.
What's coming up? Just pass it.
Well, that's what I was saying. I tried to finish it. I tried to finish it. That's right.
Thank you. Anything else for anyone? Yes, go back. Oh.
I'm just wondering, how do we schedule, I mean, how are you planning to schedule the individual meetings?
Yeah, this speaks to right here. So the individual meetings, we're gonna do them over Zoom or any sort of kind of like phone call system. So if you don't have Zoom, we're gonna do it over phone call. We have QR codes if you want to scan them and fill it out. And one of us will reach out to you to schedule that meeting. Or also sheet there. So that way if you don't want to scan the QR code and do all that, so you can just fill out like and like I said, these meetings are really a chance for individual one-on-one conversation in case you didn't feel comfortable sharing to the whole room or you want to just talk more about your points to make them be heard. It's a space for us to listen, talk about your experiences, and also something we didn't really get to was you guys have such a special community here. I love hearing everyone's stories of their ties to this community, their land, why they like living here. Because it really does inform why the community benefits plan, agreement, bylaws, all of that stuff are so relevant. So I'd love to also hear more about that in our individual meetings as well. And once again, all those meetings are confidential. We're not going to share your name. We're not going to be like, this person said this, so we need to do this. It's going to be more of it seems like the town wants something that addresses this problem. But great question. So those will be floating around, and I'll also have my laptop up for signups as well. But I also just wanted to ask really quick if anyone had one other comment or concern they would like to ask. Yep.
Just wondered if you could give us the address of your laptop so that we didn't have to all this other stuff if we didn't want to. I don't know whether that's relevant.
Oh yeah, my email address?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. I can put that on yeah.
You can write it on that board.
Oh, cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
And did you say people could just come up to this table and sign up as well?
Yes, we put all of our QR codes around the room.
Back of the room, by the door.
People are not comfortable with the QR code. Can they just come up to you now while it's top of mind?
Yeah.
And schedule it?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Yeah.
I have one more statement. Chris Stockman. I think we all know that this is a David and Goliath situation and how important it is to anticipate what may be coming down because things are changing so quickly. I've often thought that it would be good if we had some sort of provision in the town that if anyone was coming in prospecting, that the town would be notified of that. So I don't know where that would go.
They do it on the phone. They cold call people individually.
No, the town.
They don't bother with the town. They
I know what they do.
I'm saying.
What, from
Officially.
Oh, okay, yes, absolutely.
Notified it.
Oh, that's good, but it won't stop them calling each individual person.
No, of course.
Divide and conquer, Chris.
Yes.
Well, that's why we should have them.
It won't stop the individual. The individual will stop the individual.
That'd be really good, I can upstairs, so I think somebody turned the microphone on.
Hi. Sarah or Sadie Stoll, I live on Holly Street, and I just want to say, I'm very impressed by our community. And I want to thank everyone for showing up, talking with such civility, and really, really thinking about, how can we deal with this in a way that, these are realities that we're dealing with, and I just want to appreciate it, but.
I also wanted to take this opportunity to thank the planning board, select board, and conservation. And Board of Health. Yeah, thank you so much for your service.
I do have one question in the chat because the question in the chat was, can we get the QR code into the chat, or can we get it onto our website? Seems to me easier to get it onto the website. So I just wanted to let everybody know that we'll probably throw up a page on the planning board committee site that will be specific to this survey and give all the information like the email, how to schedule individual sessions, and et cetera.
Yeah, just on that thing, explain how the hell to use it work.
So also, folks, for anybody who wants to know, currently there is on our calendar is the announcement of this meeting that includes Jacob's email in that announcement. So you can go to that PDF on our website and get his information as well.
As one last thing, I want to say from all of us, thank you for allowing us into your community and have this conversation. We really appreciate hearing from all of you guys.
Oh,